The room goes quiet the second he walks in. Not the polite kind of quiet. Not the kind where people pause their conversations to glance at the door. This is the kind of quiet that starts in the chest, a collective holding of breath, a tightening behind the ribs, the way the air changes right before something dangerous happens. Shen does not rush. He never rushes. He moves through the gallery the way water moves through a crack in stone, slow, certain, and absolutely unstoppable. His black suit is cut so clean it looks like a weapon. The dragon tattoo climbing the left side of his neck disappears into his collar, and every single person in this room has heard a story about what happened to the last man who made the mistake of staring at it too long. The gallery is alive with money. Gold light drips from the ceiling fixtures and lands soft on abstract paintings that cost more than most people earn in a decade. Champagne flutes catch the light. Women in silk gowns laugh at things that are not funny. Men in tailored jackets talk without saying anything. This is the kind of event where everyone is performing, and everyone knows everyone else is performing, and no one says a word about it. Kai accepts none of it. He moves through the room like it belongs to him, because most of it does. People shift. They angle their bodies away from his path. They find sudden, urgent interest in the paintings on the walls. A man in a gray suit actually takes 2 full steps backward when Kai passes without looking at him. No one meets his eyes. No one has met his eyes all night. That is the unspoken agreement in rooms like this. You see Shen. You do not let Shen see you seeing him. Then she smiles at him. Not a nervous smile. Not the tight, performed smile people give powerful men when they want something. Not the polite curl of the lips that is really just fear wearing a costume. This is a real, open, completely unguarded smile, the kind that starts in the eyes before it reaches the mouth, the kind that belongs on a front porch somewhere, not in a room full of people too afraid to breathe wrong. Zara Okafor is standing 3 feet from him, a champagne flute loose in her fingers, wearing a deep plum strapless dress that sits against her deep brown skin like it was designed for no one else. Her hair is full and curly, pulled slightly back, and she is looking directly at him, not through him, not past him, not at some point slightly to the left of his face the way people do when they want to pretend they are not afraid. At him. With a smile that says she is genuinely, completely unbothered. Kai stops. Not for long. Half a second, maybe less. But for a man who has never once been surprised by anything a room has offered him, half a second is a lifetime. His eyes move across her face. He reads people the way other men read contracts, fast, thorough, looking for the clause that will cost him. He finds the calculation behind most smiles in 3 seconds flat. The want. The fear dressed up as warmth. The performance of ease that is really just rehearsed manipulation. He has seen every version of it. He does not find any of that here. Hi viewers, have you ever smiled at someone who the whole world was afraid of, simply because you refused to be? Drop your answer below. What he finds is stranger. She is looking at him the way people look at someone they already decided they were not scared of, before he even crossed the room. There is no performance in her eyes. There is no ask. There is just her, present, at ease, smiling like his reputation is a rumor she heard once and chose not to believe. It unsettles him in a way he does not have a name for. He keeps walking. He does not stop. He does not speak. But 3 seconds later, when he reaches the far end of the gallery and accepts a glass of champagne from a man in a white jacket, Shen does something he has not done in longer than he can remember. He looks back. She is still smiling, now at something a woman beside her said, but for one fraction of a moment, she glances over her shoulder and catches him watching. She does not flinch. In the far right corner of the gallery, half hidden behind the warm spill of a spotlight, an older woman stands alone with a champagne glass raised just slightly, not drinking, just holding it there. Her silver hair is immaculate. Her mauve gown is perfectly pressed. Her eyes move between Kai and the young woman in the plum dress with the expression of someone watching the first move of a chess game they already know how to win. Her lips curve. Just barely. 30 minutes later, Kai crosses the room again. He tells himself it is coincidence. He tells himself he is moving toward the east exit because his car is waiting. He tells himself a lot of things. He ends up 2 feet from Zara Okafor. She looks up. The smile comes back, easy, immediate, like she kept it ready. He leans down, and his voice is low enough that no one else in the room could possibly hear it. You don't know who you're smiling at, do you? She holds his gaze without a single blink. I do. By midnight, 3 people have asked Kai if he wants the woman's name. He says nothing to all 3 of them, which means yes, and they all know it, and the name lands in his phone before his car reaches the highway. Zara Okafor. 29. Art consultant. No record. No connections to any family he knows. No apparent reason to be fearless. He puts the phone face down on the seat and looks out the window. Shen has been in this city for 11 years. In that time, he has built a network that moves through 4 industries without leaving fingerprints. He has sat across tables from men who tried to threaten him, and walked out of those rooms while the men did not. He has made decisions that changed the financial futures of entire districts, and never once lost sleep about it. He does not flinch. He does not doubt. He does not get distracted. He is distracted. Not by her face, though her face is not something a man forgets easily. By the smile. By the specific, unusual quality of a smile that carried no agenda. He turns it over in his mind the way he turns over a problem, looking for the angle, the leverage point, the reason. There is always a reason. People perform ease for powerful men because they want access, or they want protection, or they have already been paid to get close. He has seen all of it. He has ended all of it, when necessary, with the kind of quiet efficiency that people in his world describe only in whispers. But her smile had no architecture. No scaffolding underneath it. It was just, real. Uncalculated. And that is the single most disorienting thing Zara Okafor could have offered him. His second-in-command, Dion Park, is waiting at the door of the building when Kai arrives. Dion has worked beside him for 7 years and has the quality that Kai values above everything else in the people around him. He knows when to speak and when to stay quiet. Tonight, he takes one look at Kai's face and chooses quiet. They ride the elevator in silence. Kai walks to the floor-to-ceiling windows and looks out at the city below, lights laid out like a circuit board, everything connected, everything running on something invisible. He thinks about the rule he made for himself a long time ago. Clean lines. No personal entanglements. No unnecessary proximity. Attachments are leverage points. Leverage points are liabilities. His world is built on the understanding that emotion is a door, and every door is a risk. He has kept every door in his life locked for so long that he stopped noticing the weight of it. He thinks about the rule. Then he thinks about the way she did not step back. He pours 2 fingers of water into a glass and does not drink it. He just holds it, standing at the window, and for the next 6 minutes, he does not move. Dion, who has watched this man make decisions that would break most people in 30 seconds flat, watches him stand at that window for 6 entire minutes and says nothing. But he notes it. He files it away. In 7 years, he has never once seen Shen spend 6 minutes on something that wasn't a threat. This is not a threat. That is the part that Dion cannot classify. Kai sets the glass down and turns around. His face is exactly what it always is, composed, unreadable, clean. He picks up a folder from the desk and opens it, and for the next 2 hours he works through 3 pending contracts without pausing once. But when he finally goes to bed at 2 in the morning, he lies in the dark for 11 minutes before sleep comes. For Shen, 11 minutes is an eternity. And somewhere in those 11 minutes, without deciding to, he makes a decision. He is going to see her again. Not because she is a threat to be assessed. Not because she is a variable he needs to control. He is going to see her again because something in him, something he has not heard from in a very long time, is simply curious. He does not examine that too closely. Not yet. But across town, at that very moment, A silver-haired woman in a mauve gown sits at the edge of a hotel bed and sets her champagne glass on the nightstand with the careful precision of someone placing the final piece of a puzzle. She picks up her phone. Dials. Waits. "It started," she says. She does not say it with warmth. She is standing in front of a painting of a woman underwater when he finds her again, 3 days later, at a smaller gallery showing on the east side of the city, at an opening she had every right to be at and no reason to expect him. He was not expected either. Zara does not turn around when she hears the shift in the room. She has been aware of that particular kind of stillness, the way a crowd goes quiet at the arrival of consequence, since she was a child. She grew up in rooms that changed temperature when the wrong person walked in. She knows the feeling well. She finishes reading the painting's placard before she acknowledges anything. When she does turn, he is standing 4 feet behind her, and he looks slightly less composed than he did at the first gallery. Not much. Just barely. Like someone adjusted one small thing in a portrait that was otherwise perfect. "You followed me here," she says. Not an accusation. More like a fact she's putting on the table to see what he does with it. "I was invited," he says. "So was I." She looks at him evenly. "Interesting coincidence." "I don't believe in coincidence." She almost smiles. "Neither do I, actually." There is a pause that could go many ways, and Zara watches him decide which way to let it go. He is extraordinarily controlled. She has been around controlled people before. People who use stillness as a performance, as a signal of power. But his stillness is different. It is not a performance. It is just how he exists in the world, like it costs him nothing and he is not asking for credit. "You knew who I was," he says. "At the first gallery." "Yes." "And you smiled anyway." "Yes." He looks at her the way she imagines he looks at everything, thorough, precise, not unkind but not warm either. Just clear. Like he is interested in what is actually there, not in what he wants to find. "Why?" he asks. She tilts her head slightly. "Would you prefer I had looked at the floor? I could practice that if it's important to you." Something moves in his eyes. Fast. Gone before she can name it. But it was there. They end up walking the gallery together. Not exactly by agreement, but not by accident either. He asks one question about a painting and she answers it seriously, and then he asks a follow-up question, which surprises her, and then they are actually talking. Not performing. Not negotiating. Just talking, the way two people talk when they are genuinely interested in what the other one thinks. He does not fill silence unnecessarily. Neither does she. They move through 3 rooms without awkwardness. In the 4th room, she stops in front of a black and white piece. A lone figure in the center of a vast empty field, no horizon line, no context. "What do you see?" she asks. He looks at it for a full 4 seconds before he answers. "Isolation that shows itself." She looks at him. He looks back, and she can see, for just a moment, that he did not mean to say it quite that plainly. She does not push. She just nods slowly, and they keep walking, and the silence after that is different from all the silences before it. Fuller. At the end of the gallery, near the exit, she stops and looks at him directly. "Can I tell you something?" He waits. "People are afraid of you because you let them be," she says. "You built the silence around yourself, and you walk through it like it's natural. But silence isn't the same thing as strength." She pauses. Not performing. Not goading. Just saying it the way she says true things, flat, clear, without armor. "Power is lonely when no one is allowed to be honest with you." The gallery hums around them. Someone laughs in another room. A glass clinks. Shen stands perfectly still. He does not answer. But something changes in the line of his jaw, a barely visible tightening, the smallest possible signal that the words landed somewhere he did not expect to feel anything. She doesn't wait for a response. She nods once, polite and unhurried, and walks to the exit. He watches her go. He stands there long after the door closes, and the words stay with him like a bruise that does not hurt until you press it. The woman in the mauve gown has a name. Most people who use it do so quietly. Mei Linshin is 61 years old. She has silver hair cut to her jaw, pearl earrings she has worn every day for 30 years, and a smile that reads as warmth to anyone who does not know what to look for. She built the first layer of Kai's empire before he was old enough to understand what it was. She identified the men he should learn from. She introduced him to the people who would shape his network. She removed, at the right times and in the right ways, the obstacles that would have stopped him. She did all of it because she understood one thing about power that most people get wrong: the architecture matters more than the occupant. Build the structure correctly and whoever sits inside it becomes powerful by default. She built Kai's structure. She made the choices that made him. And for 11 years she has stood 3 steps behind him, close enough to guide, far enough to be unseen. She is watching him now through the kind of surveillance that never looks like surveillance. She has a man at the East Gallery who reported their conversation within 20 minutes of its ending. She has access to the camera feed at the building Kai owns, which means she knows that he stood at his window for 6 minutes the night of the first gallery. She knows Zara Okafor's full name, her employment history, her landlord, her last 3 professional references, and the fact that she grew up in a household that taught her how to walk into difficult rooms without flinching. Mei Lin chose her for exactly that reason. And for a reason she has not yet shared with anyone. She sits now in a private dining room on the 42nd floor of a building she partly owns, and she opens a thin manila folder. Inside is a photograph, Zara and Kai, side by side at the East Gallery, not touching, not performing. Just walking. Just talking. Mei Lin studies it. Most people who see that photograph would find it unremarkable. 2 people at an art show. A coincidence. Mei Lin does not believe in coincidence either. She sees exactly what she placed in motion. She sees the beginning of an erosion she set in motion deliberately, the kind that starts slow, so slow that by the time the subject notices, it is already too late to call it nothing. Here is what Mei Linshin will not say out loud, even alone in this room. She is not afraid of Zara Okafor. She is afraid of what Zara Okafor is doing to Kai without trying. In 11 years of building him, Mei Lin learned everything about her son's architecture. She learned his silences, his tells, the 3 specific ways his jaw tightens depending on whether the problem is professional, personal, or something he cannot classify. She has used that knowledge, always carefully, always for purposes she told herself were in his best interest. She told herself that so many times that she stopped checking whether it was true. The woman at the gallery is not making a move. She is not playing a game. She is doing something far more threatening to Mei Lin's architecture. She is simply being present without asking for anything, without calculating, without performing, and Kai, who has spent 11 years surrounded only by people who want something, does not know what to do with a woman who wants nothing. That uncertainty in him, that 6-minute pause at the window, is the crack in the foundation. Mei Lin closes the folder. She lifts her champagne glass slowly, tilts it just slightly, the way she tilted it at the gallery 3 nights ago when she watched Zara smile, and Kai stop walking for the first time in memory. A private toast. To herself. To the game only she can see the full board of. She drinks. And somewhere in the back of her careful, calculating mind, a question is already forming, one she would never ask out loud, because asking it would mean acknowledging that the game she is playing has consequences she has not fully decided yet. The question is simple. What exactly does she want the outcome to be? 7 days after the East Gallery, Kai tells himself he is not keeping track of her schedule. He is, in fact, keeping track of her schedule. Not obsessively. Not with the kind of surveillance he uses for threats. Just awareness. The way a person becomes aware of a sound in a house they have lived in for years, a sound that was not there before, and they start noticing when it is present, and when it is not, and after a while they realize they have been listening for it without meaning to. Zara consults for 3 galleries in the city. She works Tuesday through Saturday. She takes her lunch outside when the weather allows, which it does not always, And on the days it doesn't, she eats at a corner table in a coffee shop 2 blocks from her office, always alone, always with a book open that she reads and actually pays attention to. He knows this because Dion mentioned it. Once. Casually. While reporting on something else entirely. And Kai did not ask for more, but he did not tell Dion to stop either, and Dion, who has the precise social intelligence to know when silence means continue, mentioned it again the following Tuesday. On Wednesday, Kai has a meeting in the same district. He tells himself it is a coincidence. He takes the long route from the building. She is at the corner table. Book open. Coffee going cold on the left side, the way she always leaves it. She does not look up when he walks in because she does not hear him. She is actually reading, her brow slightly creased, completely absorbed, and it takes the barista saying his name for her to glance up. She sees him. She does not scramble. She does not overperform casual. She just closes the book on her finger to hold the page and waits to see what he does. He sits down across from her without asking, which is something he does without thinking, and then immediately becomes aware that he did it without asking, and something in his expression shifts, just slightly, like a man recalibrating. "I usually ask," he says. Not an apology. Just information. "I notice," she says. "It's fine." She opens the book again, reads one more line, then closes it properly and sets it aside. "You're in this neighborhood for a reason that has nothing to do with me," she says. It is not a question. Correct. Okay. She wraps both hands around her cold coffee. "Then sit." He sits. And for the next 41 minutes, something happens to Kai-Shen that he cannot find the correct word for. He is calm. Not the controlled calm of a man who has trained himself out of reaction. Not the performance of ease that he has learned to maintain in rooms full of dangerous people. Actual calm. The kind that exists in the body before the mind gets involved. She asks him, at one point, what he thinks about a piece she is considering recommending for a client, a Korean abstract expressionist, mid-career, whose work she pulls up on her phone, and he looks at it for a long moment, and gives her a genuine opinion, and she argues with part of it, and he argues back, and neither of them is performing. They are just two people talking about something real. He cannot remember the last time he did that. By the time his phone buzzes with the reminder for his actual meeting, he has been at that table twice as long as he planned. He stands. She nods. No production is made of the leaving. But walking out, Kai notices something in himself that he does not know what to do with. His shoulders are lower than they were when he walked in. The specific tension he carries between his shoulder blades, the one he has carried so long he stopped feeling it as tension and started feeling it as just the shape of his body, is gone. He stops on the sidewalk. He stands there for a moment in the gray afternoon light, and the word that comes is not a word he was expecting. Peace. He has not felt that in so long that he almost does not recognize it. And the not recognizing of it does something strange. It makes him want to go back inside. It makes him want to sit back down, and order whatever she is drinking, and find more things to argue about so he has a reason to stay in that particular corner of the world where his shoulders are not carrying the weight of everything. He does not go back inside. But he walks to his meeting with his jaw unclenched for the first time in longer than he can count, and Dion, who meets him at the door, takes one look at his face and makes a note of it without saying a single word. At his desk 3 hours later, Kai picks up his phone twice and puts it down twice before he opens his contacts and stares at the name. He puts the phone in the drawer. He pulls a contract out and works through it with precision and focus and complete professional control. But when the office empties at 9 and Dion is the only one left, Kai leans back in his chair and looks at the ceiling, and Dion, who has known him for 7 years and has earned the right to say almost nothing and be understood, says only this. "The woman from the gallery?" Kai does not answer. Dion nods once. "Okay." The silence between them holds everything that does not need to be said. Kai is changing. Not the large obvious shifts that come from crisis or grief or war. Something smaller. Something quieter. The kind of change that happens when a crack forms not from force but from warmth, slow, impatient, and by the time you notice it, already irreversible. In a building 7 miles north, Mei Lin sets her phone down after a brief call from someone whose job it is to watch and report. She presses 2 fingers to her lips and thinks. She placed Zara in that room for reasons she cannot fully explain even to herself. She told herself it was about control, about managing the one variable in Kai's life she could not control, which was his emotional isolation, because isolated men make clean decisions and clean decisions are easier to guide. But sitting here now, hearing that her son left a coffee shop with his jaw unclenched for the first time in years, something shifts in Mei Lin's chest that she is not prepared for. It feels uncomfortably close to guilt. She stands up, moves to the window, looks out at the city the way Kai looks out at it, measuring, calculating, running the math on everything. And she tells herself that guilt is a feeling, and feelings are doors, and every door is a risk. She has lived by that rule for 30 years. She tells herself it still applies. But her hand, resting on the cold glass of the window, curls slowly into a fist, and she does not notice when it does. What do you think Mei Lin's real intention is? Is she protecting Kai, or protecting her hold on him? Drop your answer in the comments. The coffee is already on the table when Zara sits down. She did not order it. She walked into the small cafe near her office at 7:43 in the morning, the way she always does on Thursdays, and the barista, a young woman named Priya who has worked this counter for 2 years, set a courte-du on the table in the corner before Zara even reached the door. Priya nods once when Zara looks at her, and Zara looks at the coffee, and then she sits down slowly. Someone called ahead. She wraps her hands around the warm cup and does not let herself make too much of it. She has been making a careful, deliberate effort not to make too much of anything where Kai-Shen is concerned, not the coffee shop visit, not the gallery conversation, not the way he argued about that painting with the specific focused attention of someone who was not performing interest. She has been keeping everything at the level of observation. Noting it. Not feeding it. But the courte-du is exactly how she takes it. She has never told him how she takes her coffee. She stares at the cup for a long moment, and something in her chest does a quiet, unhurried thing she does not name. Zara Okafor grew up in a household that taught her early what fear felt like. Not the sharp kind, not sudden danger, not crisis. The long, low, grinding kind. The kind that lives in the body after years of watching the adults around you navigate a world that kept moving the floor. She learned, by the time she was 12, that the only way to survive rooms that changed temperature was to carry her own warmth into them. She has never feared powerful men. Not because she is reckless. Because she has looked fear in the face long enough and close enough to know its exact dimensions, and Kai-Shen, for all the weight of his reputation, does not frighten her. He fascinates her. Those are not the same thing. What she understands about him, what she understood within the first 10 minutes of their first real conversation, is that he is not dangerous the way people say he is. He is dangerous the way isolation is dangerous. The way a man who has gone years without being spoken to honestly eventually loses the ability to recognize honesty when it stands right in front of him. She has seen that before. In her own life. In the people she loved. She knows what it costs. 3 weeks after the coffee shop, on a Tuesday evening, they end up at the same gallery fundraiser, and this time neither of them pretends it is a coincidence. Kai arrives first. Zara walks in 20 minutes later, and he is already standing near the east wall, champagne untouched, watching the room with the same composed, unreadable expression he always wears in public. He sees her immediately. She crosses the room with the same unhurried ease she carries everywhere, and they stand side by side in front of a large canvas, deep blues, fractured lines, something about grief made visual, and she says, without preamble, "You want to ask me something?" He is quiet for a moment. "How did you know I would be here tonight?" "I didn't." She tilts her head. "But you've been at 3 of the last 4 events on my calendar, and I work with galleries for a living, so the math was simple." A beat. Then, "I'm not following you." "I know." She looks at the painting. "That's the interesting part." Another silence. And then, low and direct. Why aren't you afraid of me? She looks at him then. Fully. The way she looks at paintings she genuinely wants to understand, not performing attention, just giving it. Because I've been through things that actually required fear, she says. Real fear. The kind that gets in your lungs and stays there for months. The kind where you don't know if you're going to be okay on the other side. She pauses. Not for effect. Because she is choosing how much to give. You're not that. You're just used to people being afraid. He holds her gaze and does not blink and does not answer for 4 full seconds. Then, what things? She shakes her head. Not closed, just not ready. That's a question for a different night. He accepts that. Completely. Without pushing. And the accepting of it, the clean, respectful way he simply lets it be what it is, tells her more about him than anything else he has done. She looks back at the painting. You're not dangerous, she says, quieter now. You're just used to everyone letting you be. She says it without cruelty, without pity. Just the plain, full truth, the way she says everything. And she feels, rather than sees, the way it lands in him, the way something in the architecture of his stillness shifts, barely, but shifts. He does not respond. He does not need to. The first thing Mei Lin does is small. So small that it reads as nothing. She makes a phone call to a man named Brendan Cole, a collector who sits on the board of the gallery where Zara consults. Brendan owes Mei Lin a favor that she has held for 4 years without calling in. She calls it now. She does not ask for anything dramatic. She asks only that Brendan raise a question at the next board meeting about the professional judgment of the gallery's most recent art recommendation, a piece Zara championed, an emerging artist, a 6-figure acquisition that Mei Lin knows was objectively correct and will prove itself within a year. She asks Brendan to question it anyway. The meeting happens on a Thursday. Zara is not present. She hears about it Friday morning from her supervisor, a tired woman named Dr. Camille Haynes, who delivers the news with the specific careful expression of someone who believes the concern is manufactured but cannot say so out loud. The board has questions. It is nothing serious. Just questions. Zara nods and thanks her, and goes back to her desk and sits very still for 45 seconds. Then she opens her laptop and begins building the documentation to answer every question before they are formally asked, and by the time she leaves the office at 7:30 Friday evening, the file is 42 pages long and airtight. She does not tell Kai. She does not tell Kai because it has not occurred to her that the two things are connected. Mei Lin's second move is more precise. She has, over the last 3 weeks, been watching the rhythm of Kai and Zara's meetings with the attention of someone who built the instrument she is listening to. She knows that Kai keeps things clean. No calls, no texts, no paper trail of personal contact. He shows up. He is present. He leaves. The structure of it is very him, controlled, unannounced, private. There is no record of their time together that could be used against either of them. So Mei Lin creates one. It is not difficult. A photograph, taken by someone with a good camera and a long lens, of Zara having coffee with a man that Kai would recognize. The man is a business associate, not an enemy, but a competitor. Someone in a space that overlaps with Kai's interests in a way that would raise questions. The meeting is real. Zara met with him professionally, twice, about a private collection he is interested in selling. The meeting is completely innocent. The photograph does not look innocent. It is the angle. The proximity. The way the camera chose its moment, a laugh, the man leaning forward, Zara's hand near her face in a gesture that reads one way in context and another way entirely out of it. Mei Lin does not send the photograph to Kai directly. She knows her son. A direct accusation would be dismissed. What she does instead is place it where it will be found, slid into a folder that Dion will see first, attached to a document that has a legitimate reason to exist, easy to miss if you are moving fast, impossible to unsee once you have seen it. Dion sees it on a Monday. He carries it for 2 days. He tells himself it is nothing. He runs the man's name, and confirms the professional overlap. He checks the dates against Zara's known schedule and finds that they match. He does the math 3 times and the math is clean. But the photograph does not look clean. On Wednesday, Dion sets it on Kai's desk without a word and walks out of the room, because in 7 years he has learned that the hardest thing about working for this man is that you do not get to choose what he knows. Kai looks at the photograph for a long time. He does not reach for his phone. He does not call anyone. He sits in his chair in the silence he has built around his life and he looks at the image of a woman he has spent 3 weeks allowing himself to trust, and something in his chest does something cold and familiar, the specific, practiced closing down of a door that he should have known better than to open. He puts the photograph in the folder. He closes the folder. He does not throw it away. That night, at a gallery opening he had not planned to attend, he sees her across the room. She smiles, the real one, the open one, the one that started all of this. He does not smile back. The warmth drains out of her expression slowly as she reads the distance in his face, and he watches it happen, and he holds the door closed, and he tells himself this is the correct decision because correct decisions are the only kind he makes. But his jaw is clenched. And Dion, standing 3 feet to his left, says nothing and notes everything. Zara finds out about the photograph on a Friday. Not from Kai. From a woman named Sasha Towns, a mutual contact in the gallery circuit who has the specific social gift of delivering information as though she is doing you a favor and not finding out how you'll react. Sasha mentions, lightly over lunch, that there is apparently a photograph circulating. Of Zara. And someone. At a coffee meeting. Zara sets her fork down. She asks one question. Who has it? Sasha's expression answers before she does. Zara takes a cab to Kai's building. She does not call ahead. She walks up to the front desk and gives her name and stands with her hands loose at her sides and her face completely even, and she waits. The man at the desk makes a call. There is a pause that lasts exactly long enough to communicate that the person being called is deciding whether to allow it. The elevator opens. She rides up 32 floors and walks into an office that smells like paper and cedar and something she cannot name, and Kai is standing at the window with his back to her, which she notes, and does not note as a good sign. He turns around. He looks at her the way she has never seen him look at anything before, not cold exactly, but closed. Like every door shut at once. You met with Marcus Chow, he says. Twice, she says. Professionally. He's selling a private collection. I have the correspondence. I've seen the photograph. I know. She does not raise her voice. She does not move toward him. She stands exactly where she is, in the center of the room, and looks at him directly. Then you've seen half of a story. The half I saw was enough. Something moves through her, not hurt, not exactly. Something harder than hurt. The specific sharp feeling of being collapsed into a story that someone else wrote about you when they already knew the full one. Kai. She says his name plainly. You know who I am. You have sat across from me a dozen times and you have watched how I move through the world. You know I do not play games. A beat. Someone is playing one. And it isn't me. He looks at her for a long time. She watches him process it, the methodical, precise way he runs everything through his internal system of calculation. And she watches the moment where the calculation does not land cleanly, where the math does not fully close, where some part of him is uncertain. But the door stays shut. I need to verify things, he says. Until I do. Then verify them, she says. I'll wait. That's not how this works. How does it work? Silence. She nods slowly. The kind of nod that is not agreement, the kind that is a person arriving at a decision in real time. She picks up her bag from where she set it on the chair near the door. She does not rush. She does not cry. She does not ask him to believe her louder or harder or in different words. She looks at him one last time. If you believe that photograph over everything you already know about me, she says quietly, then you never really saw me. She walks to the door. She opens it. She does not look back. The door closes behind her with the specific controlled sound of something that did not slam because the person leaving it was stronger than the moment required them to be. Kai stands in the center of his office in the silence she left behind, and the silence is a different quality than the silence he built around himself before she walked into his life. That silence was clean. Ordered. He chose it. This silence has a shape. He looks at the folder on his desk. The photograph inside it. The closed door. His hand moves toward the folder. He stops. He stands there for a long time. He opens the folder on a Sunday morning, and this time he actually looks. Not the way he looked the first time, with the door already shut, running evidence through a conclusion he had already reached. He looks the way he looks at contracts when the money is significant enough to matter, from the beginning, with nothing assumed, following only what is actually there. The photograph is dated. He cross-references the date against Marcus Chow's professional calendar, which Dion pulls in 40 minutes because that is the kind of access Dion has. The meeting is logged. Legitimate. A consultation. On the same day, Zara submitted a formal recommendation memo to her gallery, which Dion also pulls, that references a private collection matching Chow's holdings. Kai reads the memo. He reads it twice. Then he sits back in his chair and looks at the ceiling and stays very still for a long time. He is not running calculations anymore. He is doing something he almost never does. He is sitting with the weight of what he got wrong without trying to immediately solve it. He got it wrong. He knew, somewhere underneath the closed door, that he got it wrong. He knew it in the office, watching her walk out with her back straight and her voice steady and her refusal to argue louder than the truth already did. He knew it in the hours after she left, when the silence in his office was the wrong shape. He knew it when he went home that night and stood at the window for 22 minutes, not 6, not 11, 22, which is the number of minutes a man stands at a window when he is not just distracted but actually reckoning with something. He knew. He chose the door anyway. Because choosing the door was familiar, and Zara Okafor is the least familiar thing that has ever walked into his life, and in his world, unfamiliar things are risks and risks are managed by removing them. He managed her. He looks at the folder in his hands and then he puts it down on the desk and makes himself stay in the discomfort of that for a full minute without doing anything about it. Then he picks up his phone and calls Dion. "Where did the photograph come from?" Dion is quiet for exactly 2 seconds, the specific pause of a man who already ran that question and did not like his answer. "It came through Brendan Cole's office. Attached to a document from the East Gallery board." "Cole." Kai says the name flat. "Yes. Who does Cole owe?" Another pause. Shorter. "Mei Lin." The name lands in the room the way names land when they are the answer to a question you were not ready to ask. Kai does not react visibly. He never reacts visibly, but something in the quality of his silence changes. Becomes denser. More deliberate. He has known his mother his entire life. He has known, on some level that he never examined directly, that she does not simply exist in the background of his world. She curates it. She shapes it. He has allowed this because he told himself her motives were aligned with his, that everything she did in service of what he was building. He let himself believe that because the alternative required a conversation he was not ready to have. He is ready now. He sets the phone down and opens his laptop and spends the next 4 hours pulling threads. Not because he needs more proof. The thread from Mei Lin to Brendan Cole to the photograph to his office is already complete. He pulls threads because he needs to understand how long it has been happening. How many rooms she has arranged. How many coincidences were not. By the time the sun goes down, he has his answer. He closes the laptop. He sits in the dark for a while. Not at the window this time, just in the chair, in the center of the room, with the city humming outside and the quiet pressing in, and he thinks about a woman who walked out of his office with her back straight and did not look back. He thinks about the 11 minutes before sleep. The 22 minutes at the window. The coffee that was already on the table. The quart d'eau, exactly right, that he arranged 3 Thursdays ago because he had paid attention to the details of her life the way he pays attention to things that matter to him. He thinks about a painting of a figure in an empty field with no horizon. Isolation that chose itself. He stands up. He reaches for his coat. Mei Lin is at dinner when he walks in. A private room. Low light. The kind of restaurant that does not take reservations from people who are not already known. She is alone. She is almost always alone at dinner, which is something Kai has never thought about until right now, and she looks up when he enters with the expression of a woman who has been expecting this visit and simply did not know the exact evening. She gestures to the chair across from her. He sits. The waiter appears. Kai waves him off. The room is completely quiet. Outside, through a single narrow window, the city runs its circuits. Mei Lin folds her hands on the table. She is composed. She is always composed. He learned composure by watching her do it from the time he was old enough to understand that stillness was a kind of armor. He does not let himself feel the weight of that right now. The photograph, he says. Kai. I am not asking a question. His voice is even. Completely level. The way his voice is when he is most certain, not least. I know what you did. I know about Cole. I know about the board meeting and the Brendan favor, and how long you have been managing the edges of my world. He pauses. I need you to tell me why. Mei Lin is quiet for a long moment. She looks at him the way she has looked at him since he was a boy, assessing, precise, with a specific quality of love that was always entangled with something else she never quite separated out. Because you were losing focus, she says. I was gaining something I hadn't had before. That is the same thing, from where I was standing. He looks at her for a long time. No, he says. It isn't. And I think you know it isn't. He leans forward, very slightly. You built everything around me so that I would be effective. I understand that. I have never doubted what you built. But at some point, he stops. Chooses the next words carefully. At some point, what you built was not for me anymore. It was for you. The room holds its breath. Mei Lin does not flinch. She does not look away. She is too controlled for either. But something in her face does a thing Kai has seen only twice in his entire life. It softens. Not a lot. Just enough to show what is underneath the architecture. Just enough to cost her something. I did not want to lose you, she says. To her? To whoever she would make you. He lets that sit in the air between them for a moment. He does not argue with it. He does not dismiss it. He understands it, actually. He understands the fear of losing the shape of something you spent your life building. He just does not accept it as a reason. You will not be removed from my life, he says. But you will be removed from the edges of it. The arrangements. The introductions. The photographs. He says the last word without heat, without volume. That is finished. Mei Lin looks at him, her son, the structure she built, and the person she loves, which have never in her life been fully separate things, and she nods once. Not agreement, exactly. More like recognition. The kind that arrives when a person finally stops arguing with what is already true. He stands. He does not hug her on the way out. He does not make a production of the leaving. He simply walks to the door, and she watches him go, and in the silence after he leaves, she picks up her wine glass and holds it for a long time without drinking. She does not toast herself this time. Kai finds Zara on a Tuesday evening, at a small gallery on the west side of the city, one she is working late to prepare for an opening. He knows she is there because he simply asked where she was, for the first time ever, and Dion told him, and he drove there without planning what to say. He walks in through the side entrance. The gallery is dim, half the track lighting up, the rest still waiting. She is standing near the back wall, adjusting the placement of a mid-size canvas, and she does not hear him come in. He stops 10 feet away. He watches her work, the careful, attentive way she does everything, moving the painting 2 inches left, then 1 inch right, stepping back, looking at it with her head slightly tilted the way she looked at the painting in the East Gallery the first real night he spoke to her. She senses him then. She goes still. She turns around. She looks at him across the quiet of the half-lit gallery. Her face does not perform anything. No warmth, not yet. No coldness either. Just presence. Just waiting to see what he does with the space between them. He crosses the room. He stops when he is close enough for her to hear him speak quietly, which is the only way he speaks. He does not apologize with speeches. He does not build a case for himself. He looks at her directly and he says the truest thing he knows how to say right now. I chose control over truth. She holds his gaze. She does not look away, does not shift, does not fill the silence with anything. 1 second. 2. 3. Her eyes move across his face, reading him the way she reads everything she genuinely wants to understand. Not looking for the angle. Just looking at what is there. And then, quiet and certain and completely unhurried. And now? He opens his mouth. He does not answer immediately. The half-lit gallery holds the question in the air between them, warm, unresolved, alive, and the city runs on outside the narrow windows, and neither of them moves, and the answer is right there in the way he crossed the room, in the way he is still standing here, in the way he has never in his life stood this still for something that was not worth every second of the waiting. He opens his mouth. The lights in the gallery hum. And the story holds its breath. If this story moved you, if you felt that last moment in your chest, then you already know this channel is something different. Subscribe to this channel right now and turn on your notifications so you do not miss anything.